Hello there, folks. My name is Dustin Cormier. It's a pleasure to see you today. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about and trying to illuminate what is being called the Kundalini syndrome phenomenon. When people obsess with Kundalini techniques and get so wrapped up in the energy shuttling through their spine without actually working out the chakras along the way. This is also being called, in a lot of ways, this isn't totally the definition, but in a lot of ways, this is partly, we could call this spiritual bypassing. And if you've heard that word before, this video might give you a bit of clarity on what exactly that means. So, as I said, my name's Dustin Cormier. I've recently been really digging into the Kriya Yoga lineage of Paramahansa Yogananda. If you've read his autobiography of a yogi, you probably know what I mean by Kriya Yoga, although there's lots more that he didn't put in that book. I myself am my first year apprentice with Ryan Kirkzak, and I still have a lot of learning to do. So consider this as me as an apprentice digging into what I already know about yoga. And if you want to know more about all things Kriya, I recommend you check out the work of Ryan Kirkzak online and through his Kriya Yoga program. So a lot of people are talking about this phenomenon of Kundalini syndrome. One of the first people to really write about and talk about it was a gentleman named Gopi Krishna. He was a guy who just focused on the technique, and he got really into, he was into the technique of shuttling energy from the root chakra through all the chakras, up the spine, up to the top of the crown of the head, holding it there, visualizing, listening, internalizing the sound of Om, and then bringing it back down and having almost a devotional intent to it, as if he was tuning into the divine, to God, and what have you. Many people are saying that this can give illuminating experiences. And, I want to give the caveat that it's not a bad thing to practice these techniques, so long as that you are not neglecting what is the other half of yoga, which I would call vichara. It's self-inquiry. Just we all know the yin and the yang. There's the objective techniques, and then there's the person doing them. And you have to explore the nature of yourself slowly, continuously, as you try to shuttle energy up and down. Because what is happening to a lot of people is that they're getting frustrated with the techniques because number one, it's just like Tantra, where you don't necessarily want to just get to the end and orgasm. This is a path, a journey of, the journey is really what this is all about. And the journey and the destination are wrapped up into one. A lot of people have such a desire to get to some state of deep illumination where they're just breathing in and out and feeling the bliss of energy going through all their chakras. And the problem is that people think that this is all you need to do in order for the problems in your life to be eliminated. Let's say you have some problem with your sacral chakra, your svadhisthana, the orange chakra, the second one, and you've got a problem with your girlfriend, and you're just, I wish my girlfriend would just leave me alone and do everything that I say so I didn't have to deal with her, so then I can just focus more on my Kriya Pranayama practice. What might be happening there is that you are, because of your desire to focus only on this one aspect of life, which is your spiritual practice, which is important for all of us on the yoga path. If you have such a desire to only be in this yoga practice, but you have a chakra attachment to the external world around you, like we all do, if your desire to shuttle energy from the top to the bottom is making you be mean and ignore your girlfriend, who is also a human, who also has issues, who also has an orange svadhisthana chakra, what happens is this is spiritual bypassing, where you're ignoring the actual problem and thinking that if I shuttle energy up to my Ajna chakra, my orange chakra problems are magically going to go away. And meanwhile, your girlfriend is sitting over here like, what fuck, I wish he would just talk to me. You know what I mean? So this is kind of the definition of spiritual bypassing. And this is what a lot of people do when they get obsessed with this idea that doing Kriya Pranayama and Sushumna breathing energy, bringing it up to the top of the chakras, the higher chakras, and bringing it back down, is going to purify Kriya. This is kind of what Kriya means. People are thinking this is going to purify the impurities in the lower chakras. And this is a two-way process, because this does help to purify all the problems in our lives, because it settles the nervous system. Doing Sushumna breathing and Kriya Pranayama energizes our nervous system and can bring clarity, can bring awareness, and it also is something that we can do which makes us ultimately less compulsive. So we don't have to go and eat lots of sugar. We don't need to drink alcohol. We don't need to go on our phone and go down and scroll down and be stimulated all the time, because it's good enough to practice the Kriya, the purification of those sensations, of the desire for these sensations and these fluctuations in our consciousness, vrittis. This kind of leads me to two pictures that I want to show you. For all intents and purposes, yoga is a combination of using techniques and understanding the nature of the person who is applying these techniques. All of us are like Icarus, trying to get into one-pointed concentration and focus on the divine self, Ishvara. This is samadhi. We're trying to have the type of concentration that will allow us to do this. If you'll excuse me for one moment, my air conditioner just came on. Sorry about that. We're all trying to practice what yoga, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali describes as developing one-pointed concentration and focus on something. Ideally, it's Ishvara, the eternal, internal self. This is a technique which involves the subject, and this is how they start to get into unity, yoga, yuj, union. Most people know that the root word of yoga is yuj, like an ox cart. It's the thing that binds the ox to the cart. And the experience of non-duality is cultivated by practices like the ones we're talking about. But it involves, you have to get to non-duality through the duality of the technique and the subject using them. That's why, as I said, we're all like Icarus. We all want to get to the center of the sun, and we all feel the burning of the dharma of Agni, of using our third chakra to burn away the impurities in order that we can make sacrificial devotional actions that are more meaningful than the compulsions of our karma. We all want to do this. We all want to move towards the sun, Surya. In astrology, this is correlated with the same thing. The story of Icarus is the guy who had the wings, wanted to fly close to the sun, but what happened? He flew too close to the sun, too fast, burned up his wings, and developed a negative association with his dharma, with his spiritual practice, with trying to be the best person that he can be. And so he fell off of his path and got into drugs and, all these, he started watching Facebook and reeling down the thing, because that's easier than the negative association he had from the difficulty of facing our deepest challenge to our soul. That's the story of Icarus. It's very deep. And this is essentially what's happening when people talk about Kundalini syndrome and spiritual bypassing. So they get into this idea of these higher chakras and they're all that matter. And what happens is that they develop negative associations with trying to deal with the things in their life that aren't what they want. You can't always get what you want. And if you try to, you might not get no satisfaction. I love the Rolling Stones. So this is why I kind of have this picture here. Yoga, this is the dichotomy of spiritual practice. Of course, everybody who is into yoga knows that the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are really a deep root of what yoga is all about. And in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, in the chapter 1, verse 1, they say in any Sanskrit text that they say the most important thing first, and it's like the central thing, and everything wraps around that central phrase. In the Yoga Sutras, we have Yoga, Chitta, Vritti, Nirodha. This isn't a Sanskrit lesson. I'm just putting the root of where this is coming from. Yoga means the cessation of unwilled fluctuations in the field of consciousness. This is like stopping Icarus from feeling like he can't go towards the sun. All of us want to be in the sun in one pointed concentration and focus, especially through using the techniques. But in order to do that, each of us has to know our own rhythm of moving towards the space of Agni, of sacrifice, of fire, or else we're going to get bummed out about the challenge, right? And this is why we have this picture. There's the technique of Kundalini breath, Kriya Pranayama, Sushumna breath, bringing it up and down. But then there's also the subject using the technique. As we see here, we have a girl who's at a counselor, and she's worried about things in her life. And through the counselor, she's using her ajna and vishuddha, her throat chakra, to communicate with those things in her life that are stopping her from being her highest and best self and sustaining the path of yoga. This is important for all of us to learn. The chakras are very special if we understand their correlations and work them out through psychoanalysis. So we're not just shuttling energy up to the higher chakras, we also focus on the lower chakras. It's very important for anybody involving themselves in yoga to go through those lower things that even Patanjali talks about in Raja Yoga, the yamas and the niyamas. All these practices of truthfulness, of eating right, of exercising in a rhythm, of finances, of having the security of a home, of a family that loves you and is protecting you and taking care of you, of food, of proper dietary rhythms, being in a circadian rhythm of eating at the same time every day, 3 times a day, hopefully mostly at lunch, and like a little bit less at breakfast, a little bit less at dinner, not drinking booze in order to have a sensational experience all the time, developing circadian rhythms so you can feel stable at the lowest chakra. Then from there, you can start to deal with your relationships properly, the svadhisthana, the emotional orange chakra. You can develop creative passions to the people all around you and share your blissful, compassionate, creative energy. And this will lead you to have extra fire. That's the fire chakra, which will give you the discipline, and the water will sustain the fire and in that sort of way, so that when we go to do our dharma, we can sustain the fire. The vishuddha, the svadhisthana chakra is almost like the ghee that allows us to sustain the fire of getting into that sun and living our best life, having the clarity to be the person that we ultimately want to be. So we need to understand the correlations of the chakras and then work through them through psychoanalysis in order that we can most effectively apply the higher chakras. It's like trying to be a guitar player. Everyone wants to just be Jimi Hendrix. But Jimi Hendrix sat and went through all his scales, all his different things, before he could get to the point where he could be a master guitar player. It's annoying, but it's more annoying to never make it by just trying to jump in there without going through the steps. Kundalini syndrome is experienced by those who obsess over Kriya techniques and other meditation and yoga techniques and engage energy without working out these psychological hang-ups. They develop negative associations associated with the actual problems in those lower chakras because they're obsessing with just getting into the objective techniques without practicing vichara, self-inquiry, receptivity and tuning into the Divine Mother, who is our body's own ingrown nervous system's understanding of the rhythm through which we can go to the sun without burning ourselves up. So, ultimately, the important thing is to carry the impression of our, because again, these techniques aren't bad. It's not a bad thing to develop the Sushumna breath and Kriya Pranayama. It's not a bad thing to practice these things, so long as you are not spiritual bypassing and neglecting working out the substratum of your energy field that is supposed to be holding the energy of those higher chakras. And so that's why it's important that you take the practice that you have with these techniques when you're practicing Kriya Pranayama, Sushumna, whatever it is, visualize the expansiveness coming from the bottom to the top, and try to transmute that experience on the mat, on the yoga mat, into your everyday life. Try to remember when you go and talk to your girlfriend and you've got some issue, or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, you've got some issue with them that you've got to deal with, remember your authenticity. Remember the energy coming up and down in the spine. Even visualize and even do it while you're living the rest of the 23 hours. You're on your mat for an hour. You should be living the rest of the 23 hours of your life in respect and obeisance to what yoga means in terms of expansiveness, bringing it up, and also bringing it back down. Paying attention to the dignity of those around you and those who are supplying that substratum of your energy field, which in a lot of ways it just means going to a counselor, seeing a therapist, talking to your mother, talking to your friends, talking to your loved ones about the things that are making you frustrated. Because a lot of the times, a lot of people come into yoga and have this obsession with getting this energy up and down. It's because they have issues. They have something in their lives. Something happened to them in their childhood, some real part of their relationship with their father or their mother that caused them pain, and it's still there. It's still operating, and bringing energy up and down through the Sushumna is only exacerbating it, only making them feel more frustrated that they can't be in the peace of samadhi right now because it's my mother's and my father's fault. It's my brother because he did this and that to me when I was younger. Go to a therapist and work that shit out before you come back and sit down and start to focus on what might be there for you in the higher spheres of the chakras. I hope this is clarifying. Sorry for swearing. I'm still weaving through where exactly I am on my path, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name's Dustin Cormier. Again, I'm just an apprentice in the path of Kriya Yoga. If you want to learn more about this practice that I'm talking about and how to develop it into a consistent, stable lifestyle and life path, I recommend somebody like my teacher, Ryan Kirkzak. Ryan Kirkzak is somebody who's actually will email you, tell you the techniques and also the lifestyle practices. You can get his books, and then he will email you and ask you how it's going, how it's all doing. And having that kind of intimacy can really help you develop on those things, the red chakra, the orange chakra, these basic lifestyle fundamentals that will allow you to seek what really your higher chakras have in store for you. I highly recommend it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you thought this was insightful. I'm Dustin Cormier, and thank you so much for watching.